Hi, everybody, and welcome to Wake Up with Speech and OT. My name is Ashleigh Moore. I'm a speech and language pathologist with South Shore Therapies. Today, we have Michele Donlon, who is an SST-SLP, and she's been in the field for 18 years, tackling everything from articulation disorders to language delays to executive functioning skills. We've welcomed her today because she's also a mom to 2 7th graders and 1 4th grader. And she is going to talk a little bit about her experience with virtual learning with her kids. Michele, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
It's nice to be here, Ashleigh.
Yeah. So before we dive into some more questions, let's talk a little bit about what we're asking our kids to do when they're at home and learning virtually, and how that is really impacting their ability to exercise their executive functions to the fullest.
The executive function skills that these kids are being asked to call upon far exceed what they've developed yet skill-wise. So executive functions, we know, are the skills that are required to plan and organize and complete tasks. And they're typically not developed until early 20s. So to have these young elementary school kiddos and middle schoolers and even high schoolers manage their time and their materials and their workload is just a huge undertaking for them. And it really is, again, calling on skills that haven't been developed yet. And it is important for families and adults and the teachers and everyone on these teams to pull together and help them organize themselves and to be successful.
Absolutely. So along those lines, what does your home setup look like? We know that's a really important thing to do for our kids to help support their organization skills that might not be developed yet.
One of the most important pieces of setting up our home for my 3 kids was making sure they each had a designated workspace. So I thought this was important for them to get in that school mindset where they weren't working from their bed, they weren't laying on the couch working, that they had a place to go to be ready to learn and to have all their materials available to them. So I ended up setting up desks in different rooms of the house that were in as distraction-free locations as possible. The TV isn't on, the radio isn't on, or the Alexa. No, again, they were apart from any kind of high traffic area. I know some kids are learning in their rooms, and if that's the case, it would be important that they are just at a workspace, not so much on their bed, again, to get into that school mindset. On their desks, they have all their materials, they have their Chromebooks and chargers to make sure they're all charged up, any kind of Post-its that they need or pens, and their headphones available to them. One of the things too in setting up our space is that the rules that they would have in school are the same here. So their devices, whether it's their phone or an iPod, whatever they may have, they're not allowed to have them in their workspace. And we actually keep them in this little cell block that's in the kitchen. Yes. So throughout the day, they put their phones in the cell block, they lock it up, and they're allowed to check it during breaks or at the end of the day. But the rules that are enforced at school, where there are no cell phones on them at the time, is the same rule that we follow at our house.
Awesome. Good. And another piece that is really important for our kids to make them the most successful while doing virtual learning is a daily routine, right? So what strategies have you found have been helpful to organize the steps in your day?
So one of the things that's been helpful is really to set up a routine. And I have them, so my middle schoolers are in school 2 days a week, full day, and then they're learning from home 3 days. And my 4th grader is in school 4 mornings a week, and she's home then, everyone's home on Wednesday. So our schedules are a little bit varied from student to student in our house. And everyone has their schedule plugged into their Chromebook and their Google Calendar. with alerts that can help them transition, that set reminders to take a break, or to submit their work. That's actually, I can go back to that a little bit, but one of the things that I keep hearing from students and from clients too is the kids are putting the work in, they're doing their work, and then they don't submit it. So having visual reminders, audible reminders to, when you finish your work, hand it in. We actually set timers and reminders on the Alexa that are better for us for those longer transitions. So during lunch, when they're outside or they're eating and you have 5 minutes, get back, get ready.
Got it.
So those visual and audible reminders are helpful. Again, using the Google Calendar for setting in all their classes with the Zoom codes or the Google Meet codes that they can just click on. I also have them printed out, so it's visible to them. It's also a reference right there. I think setting a schedule, it's important to also have your child's input on what works best. When do you think you need a break? Would you rather work all the way through and then take a longer break, or do you need those shorter breaks? So really working with everyone's different learning style, I think is most important.
Yeah. And one more piece I'll add, because I thought it was so smart. When we first started talking about virtual learning a few months ago, you had mentioned that you have like a turn-in place at the end of the day, right? Is there like a place where you your kids can, if there's a printed out paperwork, they turn it in the kitchen at the end of every day? Is that correct?
So yeah, so on their desks, everyone has a filing system. And again, they have all their materials on their desk, but there is a filing system for all their work that has to be done or that has to be turned in. A lot of their work is on the computer, but for my younger daughter, she has a lot of not a lot of packets, but a lot of her work is done in paper form on a packet. So her teacher also makes a really nice checklist so that she knows what to work on each day when she's home. So that's always in the same spot. We're not looking around. She's not, running around the house trying to find it every night. So it's always in the same spot, and anything they do, it's just one location. So at the end of the day, when they're all done, they can take a break, they come back and kind of tidy up their area, make sure everything is there that they need to prepare for the next day. My older two also use their agenda pretty regularly. It's better for just processing their work that they have to do. When they're writing it down, they're processing it again and more aware of what has to be done. And they're able to break down their assignments too that way. And we talk through them. I think too, one of the things too, kind of the bigger picture is I have them follow a routine as if they're going to school. So they get up, they have to get dressed, brush their teeth, have breakfast. And instead of, laying in their pajamas, laying on their bed, just kind of rolling into it, again, it's getting into that school mindset of, even though you're home, you're working, this is the school day. And it helps, the routine helps incorporate check-ins with me as well. This morning, for example, my daughter, her class, she had a half hour in between classes. She got out early and she came in and she was walking around, and I said, well, there's probably a better use of this time. Why don't you get ready for your next class? So we can incorporate those check-ins throughout the day.
Absolutely. Well, there's no lack of challenges with virtual learning and doing it for the first time as a parent, but what's something positive that's come out of this experience? What are your kids doing and experiencing, and what are you learning and experiencing that we might never have had if we didn't get this experience?
Our school district we took on the hybrid model. So our kids are in school and some days in home, and I didn't think I was going to like it, but it seems to be working for our family. There's something about that variety of the week and just the flexibility that we have that has given everyone a little more stamina throughout the week. I know that model doesn't work for some kids for learning. It's, but for us, it's been a positive. I also like that I have more insight into their workload, and their approach to learning, and their approach to completing their assignments. When I hear their teachers on Zoom, I get a little bit more of an understanding of their personalities and also their expectations, which sometimes can be interpreted differently by students. So it's nice to hear it directly sometimes. I also like hearing them participate. A big part of their grade is participation. So hearing them participate and getting feedback from their teacher is also nice. And then some days just have them roll downstairs and hang out a little bit without rushing out the door. I've enjoyed that again for that hybrid schedule.
That's fantastic. And I didn't even think about that, where if you do get that chance to kind of have an ear in on how they're participating in their classes and how they're being successful, and just seeing them talk with their classmates and, you know, speak up and answer questions. And that's something that you wouldn't be able to see if they were at school all day. So that's got to be a cool experience to see your kids learning and growing kind of right in front of your eyes. It's very cool. And so the opposite then, what is one of the hardest things that you've had to tackle, and how's it going?
One of the hardest pieces of this is there's a lot of time in front of the computer, especially with the middle schoolers. Thankfully, a lot of their day is spent with that synchronous, that live teaching, where they're home, but they're part of the teachers in the classroom teaching, and they're a part of that live instruction. So that's been really nice. But the majority of their work also is on Google Docs or Google Slides or these online math programs where they're on the screen for the majority of the day, take a break, and then back on the screen for homework. So sometimes they're on for 10 hours a day. And I know the teachers are thoughtful in how much they're expecting, how much time they're expecting the kids to participate in homework, but some days it is a lot of time in front of the screen. So insisting that they go outside, take those screen-free breaks, get some fresh air, it can be a little bit of a chore sometimes, but it's gotten better.
Wonderful. And what's working for you? What have you found that's been successful for you?
For us, setting the expectations early has been really helpful. They know that they are expected to, again, have that school mindset, that they're showing up to learn. They're using their workspaces. They're not laying on their beds. They're respecting their teachers' time and effort. And again, they're showing up and being prepared. Even though they're home, they're still working at school. Along the same lines, the consistent reinforcement of the rules. The phones go in that cell block. They're not allowed to have them at school. They're not allowed to have them at home. They are, again, it's hard sometimes, but those non-screen breaks and getting outside, sticking with the routine of you have to go to bed at a decent hour, even though you're not getting up and going. We can't be up until, all hours of the night just because, we're going to be home tomorrow. On the other side of that, I think it works to relax some of the rules. This is stressful. They're working hard. They're not stopping, and they're missing a lot. So to relax a few of the rules where, maybe they're allowed to eat in a room they haven't before, have their breakfast somewhere. And also let them vent a little bit more respectfully, but, let them get those emotions out and their frustrations out, blow off a little steam. So I'm a little more lenient that way. And I think also using the it takes a village approach. We are all in this together. We're all experiencing it the same yet different. And I think calling on our resources around us is really important. We had friends a few weeks ago and our power went out. Our power was on, but friends went out, and a friend just called and said, we don't have power, and we set up the back deck and they were able to do their remote learning from our back deck. So we really, rely on each other as much as we can, and use our resources. That's been helpful.
Certainly. Great. And as a final question, what advice do you have for parents, and what resources do we have to share with our parents?
So I think one of the things that is really important is to communicate with the teachers, communicate with your kids, check in with them. If know when to call it quits, know when a day is done. I think it is, no one's getting work done when they're melting down or when they're stressed out. So encouraging both ourselves as parents and also the kids to take a walk, take a break, do something, and come back to your work either tomorrow or at a later time when you're in a better mindset. I think we're feeling overwhelmed, and I imagine it's even more so for some of these students. And our little ones may show us with their behaviors, or even tell us, and the older kiddos may not tell us, but I would guarantee everyone's feeling the amount of stress that we think they're feeling. And along those lines, I had a friend talking about this, and she said, try to focus on the positives, show gratitude for all their effort and their hard work and all the positives in our lives. They're probably going to remember how we as adults handled this, and more than anything, and they're going to remember how we handled this and our approach to this, rather than what they learned or more than what they learned. So if we can model flexibility and resilience as we manage our workloads and our stress and our schedules, I think that's one of the best things that we can provide for them, as hard as it is.
Yes, so well said. And it goes back to what we were talking about at the top with these executive functions, where flexibility and resilience are also executive functions. So when we're supporting them with their organization and their planning, these are other skills we model for them as well, to be able to show them that this is hard for everybody, and we can do hard things when we all work together. So absolutely. Any resources, if people are looking for more information, where they can go? What has been helpful for you for resources?
There are some really great resources online, and we can include them for everyone to access.
Absolutely.
So attitudemag.com, Attitude Magazine has wonderful resources for kids with ADHD, executive function, just learning in general. I think anyone can benefit from these resources. Common Sense Media is a really popular website. They have, I think, a subset, wideopenschool.org, that provides wonderful resources. Understood.org is also wonderful, and even Khan Academy. We use that for a math program, but they have some great articles and blogs that reflect a lot of the challenges that a lot of the challenges that we're facing, and some nice resources for that. So for managing them.
Wonderful. Well, Michele, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been incredibly insightful, and we really appreciated having you.